objection.
Now, Mr. President, for all of the Senate's vaunted traditions about grand debates, we rarely practice the actual art, the real back and forth, the exchange of ideas. For weeks now, we've heard our Republican colleagues come to the floor and rail against the Green New Deal, as the leader just did. Democrats have simply been trying to get a few honest answers out of the Republican leadership about their position on climate change so that we might have a real debate. So yesterday, as Republican after Republican lined up to give speeches against taking bold action on climate change, several Democrats tried to steer the conversation in a more positive direction by asking our Republican colleagues simple questions. And I ask this again of every Republican, and particularly of Leader McConnell. Do you, Leader McConnell, and our Republican friends believe climate change is real? Yes or no? Do you believe that climate change is caused by human activity? Yes or no? And most importantly, do you believe that Congress should do something about it? Yes or no? If our colleagues believe that it's a problem and agree to that, what's their plan to deal with climate change? We know they don't like the Green New Deal. They've made that clear. It doesn't forward the debate. But what is their plan? We might have ruffled some feathers on the other side. I think my colleagues just wanted to give speeches on the Green New Deal and then leave the floor. It's a sad state of affairs when even a little debate, even heated debate, is something unsettling here in the Senate. But I have to give credit to the few Republicans who did engage us. A few said they did believe in climate change and offered some examples of minor legislation where our parties could work together to begin tackling this crisis. I give them credit for that. But here's the problem. When is Leader McConnell going to schedule time for consideration of this and other climate change legislation? We Democrats are ready to work. Will Leader McConnell bring his own members' clean energy legislation to the floor? Others have said climate change is happening, but the free market could take care of it through, quote, innovation. With all due respect, that doesn't mean much. Most of us would agree we live in an incredible time of innovation and technology, and yet we continue to pour even more carbon into the atmosphere than previous years, not less. Left alone, the market has proved incapable of curing climate change for the simple reason of what economists call externalities. You run a coal plant. You make the profits from selling the electricity that the coal plant produces, but you don't pay the price for the carbon you put in the air. So it's not going to happen through the free market alone because of what even Adam Smith recognized. There are externalities that have to be captured, and that's government's job, to at least make sure they are captured. Another block of Republicans took a different tack. A few of our Republican colleagues said yesterday that climate change was real, but only because the climate has always been changing and all flora and fauna contribute to it. What are we to do, they say, as they throw up their hands and look to the sky? Ban volcanoes? Unbelievable. What an amazing canard that is. Those who said it, and there were a few right here yesterday, would get an F in middle school earth science with that kind of reasoning. We all know, at least we all ought to know, that human activity, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, has pushed the amount of carbon in our atmosphere to record levels, trapping more heat than ever before, and changing the climate in ways not seen before in our history. Maybe denying or misleading about climate change is considered acceptable in the modern Republican Party, where it's come to be expected. And we wonder why that is so. Some argue it's because the people don't believe in science. Some argue because they just are stuck in the status quo. And some argue it's because there's a lot of oil money cascading into the Republican Party. When you read about all these multi-millionaire and billionaire new oil magnates who send tons of money there, some argue that. Can't prove which one's true, but we do know it leads to terrible, terrible inaction. So, I'd like to see my colleagues who don't admit the severity of climate change go talk to the farmers in Iowa dealing with drought, the fishermen in Alaska and North Carolina, the homeowners in Florida and the Mountain West. See if denying recent climate change works there. It sure doesn't work on the south coast of Long Island, where we had Sandy, which made believers out of many who were skeptical in the past. Nonetheless, Madam President, we made some progress yesterday. At the very least, my friends on the other side know they'll not be able to execute their standard playbook. Democrats are not going to sit around while Republicans come to the floor and yell about socialism as they have for the past 2 decades. We're going to make Republicans answer core questions about real change. That's what America wants. One of the reasons all this scare tactics didn't work in 2018 and the House is now Democratic, and we kept most of our seats, even in very red states. I suspect many of my more reasonable colleagues would prefer that, a real debate, than gotcha politics that Leader McConnell is so adept at playing and is playing once again with this cynical Green New Deal ploy.